We always know who are the favorites to win the World Cup, or at least the top 3 or 4 teams. But we often don't know who will be the dark horse. Because if we did know who the dark horse is or will be, they're not dark horses. Because dark horses are supposed to achieve success, but they're unexpected to do so. Like no one could have guessed that South Korea and Turkey would have made it to the semifinals in 2002, or that Costa Rica would have reached the quarterfinals in 2014, or Croatia making it to the final in 2018, and most recently Morocco in 2022, they reached the semifinals. Now, usually host nations get a bit of a boost, so could the US men's national team be a dark horse in the 2026 World Cup? And how far would the United States have to go to be considered a dark horse? Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV. And today we have a US men's national team 2026 World Cup talk video. Let me explain. So for this video, we're going to start off going through different scenarios that the US men's national team could land in the knockout rounds. What do I mean by that? We're going to go through a scenario where the US finishes in first in their group, then one that they finish in second, and then in third. We're going to look at the bracket, okay? And obviously we're going to place results based on the teams that are expected to win their games. And with that said, we're going to determine the fate of the United States in the World Cup based on each one of these scenarios, finishing first, second, or third in their group, to see if it even matters in which position you advance to the knockout rounds. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around because where we finish in the group stage matters a lot. And just so you know, in my opinion, if the United States makes it to the quarterfinals, that means they have won 2 knockout games. And to me, that would be considered a dark horse campaign. So we're going to be aiming, when we're looking at the bracket, we're going to be aiming for the quarterfinals. And for this video, I'm going to have Pete from 11 Yanks as the guest. So after we finish going through those scenarios I just mentioned, we're going to go through a few concerns that we have with the US men's national team that could hold this team back in the World Cup and inevitably mess with our dark horse campaign. So now you may sit back, relax, hit the like button, do that right now. It's a great way to support the channel for free. I'm waiting for you to do it. Once you do it, we'll start the episode. I'm assuming you just did it. So let's roll the intro, bring in Pete, and let's do it. Let's talk about the US men's national team and the World Cup. Oh, and obviously, before we start, this is being released right before New Year's, so Happy New Year. Okay, 2025 is pretty much over at this point. If you guys are watching this episode, time flies, Pete. It feels like yesterday we were watching the 2022 World Cup.
I know. 3 years have gone by since that World Cup. 3 years.
It's pretty wild, but we're here, and now we're 6 months away from the next World Cup, which there are multiple concerns with the U.S. men's national team that we're going to talk about, but there's also, I would say, a lot of optimism too, playing at home, of the possibility of us being a dark horse. I just want to make one thing clear to anyone. When I say the U.S. being a dark horse, I would say us making it to the quarterfinals is a dark horse. I'm not saying a dark horse in terms of winning. I'm not even saying semifinals. I don't think those are very realistic, even though it's not impossible, right, if you're playing to make it to the semifinals. But I'm saying the U.S. making it to the quarterfinals would be a dark horse scenario. Now, listen, what we're going to do today is the following. I went in the World Cup groups and I plugged in the results, mainly putting the favorites to advance where most people expect them to advance. We're going to go through the bracket with the United States if we finish first in our group, second, and third, but only our side of the bracket. We don't care about the rest right now. Just to see the different scenarios of possibilities of making it to the quarterfinals. And then at the end of the video, me and Pete will quickly go through 1 or 2 concerns each that need to be addressed by the World Cup if we want to make that push for an incredible run or the best World Cup in U.S. men's national team history in modern era, right? We're not going to count that one time we made it to the semifinals when like 8 teams played in the World Cup.
First World Cup ever, 1930.
Yes. There was what, like 8 teams? 12?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many there were, but we got third in that World Cup.
Yeah. But anyhow, let me pull up the bracket. So I plugged in, Pete, more or less I put the favorites of each group to advance in first, the second favorites to finish in second, third. Now, we know in the World Cup anything can happen, and very likely this won't be the exact bracket, okay? But in this scenario, the United States finished first in their group when I put it. Spain obviously topped their group, Austria in second, Colombia finished in second, Portugal topped the group, Croatia finished in second, England topped the group, Belgium topped their group, and I had South Africa, I believe, finish in second in Mexico's group. And some people might say they're not good. Okay, I think they're not that bad. They actually had a great cycle, South Africa. And on top of that, sure, replace South Africa with Mexico, South Korea, Denmark. Maybe Denmark would make a difference, but all other nations, I don't think it's that much of a difference of who faces who. In this scenario here, the US would play Canada. So let's say we beat Canada, Pete. We would beat Canada in the World Cup, right? I would hope so.
Yeah, we'd better. I mean, we'd better.
Belgium and South Africa, I would assume Belgium would be the clear favorites here, despite not being the best of their golden generation, right? And
Yeah,
then
I think so
Spain.
too.
And then Colombia and Croatia, I don't think it matters too much. These are two very good teams, but I think they would die to Spain. So let's just put Colombia for the sake of it. How realistic is, Pete, for the U.S. to make it to the quarterfinals here against this Belgium side at home?
I think it's very doable. Very doable. This is not the Belgium of the past. Yeah, they still have some good players, of course. Jeremy Doku is probably far and away, their best. Salamakers is still a very good player. But this is not the Belgium of 2014, right? Or 2018, more probably. 2018 was their peak, right? Where they
Yeah.
got third at a World Cup. This is not that Belgium anymore. A lot of that generation has aged out, and they're still a good team, but we should have a good possibility to beat them. I would say 60-40, right? Um, because, the US, we still have concerns. And yes, we're not the greatest team, but it's Belgium. It's not France. It's not Spain. It's not Brazil. It's not Argentina. It's not Germany. It's not England, right? It's not even the Netherlands or Portugal. So it's that second tier level of team that you would put them with Uruguay or Colombia, right? Or Norway. It's crazy that Norway is now second tier. Oh, if you look at their roster, where you think like, yeah, they're probably marginally better than us, player for player. But I don't think the gap is that big. I really don't.
Would you say Belgium is the most, outside of the host nations, Mexico, Canada, and the US, Belgium is probably the most beatable team in pot one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you have it. That's all you need to know. So if there is an upset that we can pull, which again, if we knock out Belgium, I think it would be considered an upset in the soccer world. They would consider that an upset.
Yeah.
The US would go on to face Spain in the quarterfinals. Now, if we play Spain 100 times, I think we beat them once out of 100. Could it happen in the World Cup? Sure. It happened in 2009 against the best Spanish generation of all time in the Confederations Cup. Now, the very likely scenario here is Spain advances with some comfort and the US calls it a good World Cup. And I would say that's a good World Cup. If we beat Canada, beat Belgium, and lose to Spain, lose in an honorable way, right? Don't get
Yeah.
trashed.
Don't get thrashed. Yeah. You can't get thrashed.
Yeah.
Like if you lose 2-1 or you lose on penalties or you lose 1-0 or 3-2, which honestly I think 3-2 might be the most likely scenario, but or 2-1 probably the most likely scenario.
Yeah, and then this would be the end of the road for the United States in this World Cup. So that's if we finish first. Now let's go back, and I'm going to go back
Real
to the
quick,
group.
if this
Yeah,
is the scenario and Pochettino wants to stay another 4 years, do you give him another contract?
loses to Spain. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, if he beats Canada and Belgium, tops his group, beats Canada, beats Belgium, loses to Spain, there's enough progress there that you go, yeah, let's give this guy another 4 years,
So
or at
now,
least
Pete,
two, at least to Copa America.
let's flip this. So now I have the U.S. going in second place. Okay,
Mm,
ignore the results itself. There, I just kind of plugged in results. Second place, we go to pathway number 2. So this is the bracket for the U.S. if we go in second place. It gets considerably harder to get to the quarterfinals because now what's going to happen is if we play Iran, well, that Iran game is going to be pretty
fierce.
insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty insane. But let's say the US does beat Iran as we should, and 1-0 sounds very reasonable. We would very likely face Argentina. And then on
Mm.
the other side, Switzerland, probably Portugal. So right now, if we're just being very realistic, if we finish in second, the end of the road for us would be the round of 16, not the quarterfinals.
let me ask you this: who would you rather face in a World Cup knockout, Spain or Argentina?
Spain.
You would rather face Spain.
Yeah, we
Why?
talked about this before. Historically, and anyone that wants to fact check me, go through the past, I don't know, 5 World Cups. South American teams very often they don't get upset. Like they lose to teams that are better than them. That's how
Or
South
as
like
good,
even
or as
or
good.
as good. Like when they say Brazil's been trash for years. Yeah, but they're not losing to fucking Trinidad and Tobago or losing even to Morocco in a World Cup. Even though Morocco these days is probably the same level. Brazil's always losing to a tier 2 European team, usually, or a tier 1. But those tier 2 European teams are the same level as Brazil these days, right?
Like Croatia.
Yeah, I mean Croatia. I don't even know. Well, they're not even tier 2 in the past 2 World Cups, right? Historically, they are, but the past 2 World Cups are not.
No.
Were very good. The Belgium that Brazil lost in 2018 was incredible. They were better than Brazil, actually, in my opinion. They actually deserved to win it. So Brazil, yeah, the last World Cup, you can make a case that Brazil lost to a Croatian side that was slightly worse than Brazil, but it's also close enough. The two
Yeah.
levels. Argentina too, right? When they lose in the World Cups, they usually lose to a superior opponent. Like in 2018, they got trashed by what was it, France? That was better
But they
than them.
did lose to Saudi Arabia in the group stage.
That is true, but they won the World Cup. That somehow happened. Very
It's like
often they.
Spain in 2010, right? They lost to Switzerland in the opening game, and everyone
But
was
I
like,
meant
"What?"
more like getting knocked out. Like Brazil lost to
Knocked out. Yeah.
Cameroon in the group stage.
Yeah.
I very often Europeans get upset. Go back to the 2002 World Cup. Europeans were getting upset by, well, Turkey's a European team, but an underdog Turkish side, or like South Korea, for example. You see that happen more with European teams. South American teams usually lose to teams at their level or better.
Or
We're
even
not
if
at
you look at this
Argentina.
last World Cup, Spain and Portugal both knocked out by Morocco,
There you go. Now Brazil
right?
was knocked out by a Croatian side. Argentina went all the way through. Um, so my overall point is, I think when it comes to pulling an upset, I think the U.S. is more likely, even though the odds are super slim with either one. There are more odds of the U.S. pulling an upset against Spain than Argentina. But Pete, I'll say this: in terms of the grand scheme of things, knocking out Argentina with Messi would be much bigger, the repercussions, when compared to knocking out Spain.
I'll
It
say
would be.
this though. Let me say this: if somebody gave, let's say all your savings, and they said, "Tack, you have to put all your savings on who's going to win the World Cup, Argentina or Spain," who would you put it on?
Spain.
Yeah, I think Spain's the better team than Argentina. I think, look, historically, teams that win the World Cup don't do well in the next World Cup, right? That's usually how it goes.
Besides Brazil
So,
and France, yeah.
I mean, France after they won it, and then in 2002, what happened? I know that. Okay, this time is different. Yeah,
Mm.
France made the final, right? Brazil 2006, they
No,
lost
no,
to
but
the
Brazil,
Nether.
but Brazil made 3 consecutive finals: 94, 98, 2002.
Yeah, true. I guess more recently that trend has been somewhat reversed. France, after they won it, well, they didn't even win it. They got to the final in 2006, and in 2010 they were a disaster.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think Argentina is going to win this World Cup, and I don't even think they're going to make the final. Whereas you could see Spain making a final. So I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I would kind of rather, but then there's this other aspect too that we haven't discussed. European teams playing in the United States in the summer versus South American teams playing in the United States in the summer, where I think the South American teams will handle it a lot better than the
We saw
European
that in
teams.
the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
But Pete, also there's this. What are the odds FIFA even lets the US rob the world of a Messi Ronaldo matchup?
Yeah. That's the problem.
And here's the other thing too about finishing first and second. If we finish in first, for us to make like a miracle run, like since Pochettino loved Miracle on Ice, right? He wanted to talk about that quite a bit. If we want to make a miracle run, the least amount of powerhouses we face, the better. And the big team that we have to face to make it to the semifinals if we finish first will likely be Spain. So it's one upset that you have to pull. Here, even if for some miracle we knocked out Argentina, then we have to knock out Portugal too. So
You just want Ronaldo starting that game because I think Portugal are a different team without Ronaldo.
Could you imagine the soccer world if the US retires Messi and Ronaldo in the same World Cup?
Give Pochettino a contract for life. You know, if that's the case, soccer could explode in this country. If you retire Ronaldo and Messi,
Yeah,
although
but
Ronaldo would probably say, I aim to play in the next World Cup. I'll only be 47.
he also said he did it for Trump. He's like, I talked to Trump and we had an agreement with that. That I let the US win. But let's go. Okay, so clearly finishing first or second based on the simulated bracket makes a big difference of how far we can make it. Pretty important for the players in Pochettino to keep that in mind, qualifying first. Now let's go to another scenario. Let's say the United States finishes in third place. Let me see how I can do this. I guess I'll just put the US with 3 points. I'm just trying to figure out how I can make them in third place here. I can have the
Have
US
them lose to
beating
Paraguay and
Australia.
Turkey.
I can
Or
have this here. Let's see what it looks like if I do this. The US is in second, but I can have maybe the US lose here. Okay, we're in third with 4 points, 0 goal differential. There you go. So if we finish in third, keep in mind that the simulation we're about to do with the US finishing in third, it can vary because other results affect the third place rankings. But again, for the sake of this video, this is what we did. I plugged in the favorites, goal differential matters. Let's see where the US lands. And there you go. We land in the same exact bracket. We just play a tougher opponent earlier. We would play Cristiano Ronaldo very likely in the round of 32. So just to make it clear, finishing first, if you this is one thing I said in a preview. I said if we want to make a deep run in this World Cup, if we want to have any shot, we need to top our group. We need to. I think in doing
it's the
these
difference between a quarterfinal, a round of 16, and a round of 32 exit. It seems, right? I mean, so upsets happen, surprises happen, things can change, right? We're going based on favorites, but it never happens where all the favorites it never goes exactly as the FIFA rankings or even the ELO rankings say it's going to go. It's one game, it's one World Cup. Upsets happen, crazy things happen. So it's like so hard to know, but the likelier chances are that that's sort of the pathway it's going to follow.
Yeah, but look at this, Pete. Like, for example, Argentina's group, I don't see how they don't top it.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
And then Portugal, sure, maybe Portugal doesn't top their group, but then we would play Colombia, which is a team that could even be tougher than Portugal in the World Cup. Who knows, right? Colombia could be better than Portugal, depending on how it plays
For
out.
me,
So,
Portugal is it's all dependent on how much Ronaldo runs that team. Because if Ronaldo's involved, they're worse. And he's going to go to the World Cup. If he accepts being a sub and a leader in the dressing room, then Portugal will be very, very good. But if he needs to start and Portugal defers to him, I think they're going to have problems.
and Pete, I want to add one thing here too. Let's say we pull an upset against Portugal. We'll probably play Switzerland and then here Argentina. I want to say one thing. I think nowadays, despite the FIFA rankings, I think Switzerland's a more well-rounded team than Belgium. I think we could, if we beat Portugal, we could very well get knocked out by Switzerland right after.
Yeah.
We're not the favorites against Switzerland. That's the point I want to make.
No.
So even if we pull it, so this scenario where we finish in third place, if for some miracle we knock out Portugal, I don't see how we knock out Switzerland. And if for some miracle we knock out Switzerland, the end of the road eventually comes here. So if we finish in third place, making it to the quarterfinals is, I'm not going to say impossible, but our odds are very slim. The overall point that we were trying to make when we did these quick simulations is what Pete said is right. It like we don't know what's going to happen in the other groups, so maybe the brackets will kind of like change a little bit. But the overall point is if we don't finish first, the road to the quarterfinals will be extremely tough. If we finish first, it's actually quite doable. It's not insane. It's not even a miracle. You just have to beat Belgium essentially if the bracket goes the way we planned out. Which you're going to say, well, Belgium is good, but we talked about this. This is the most beatable Belgium we've seen over the past like 15 years.
Probably, yeah.
Now, Pete, before we close this episode, there's a lot of myths about like dark horses throughout history. And my favorite one is that no team has ever won a World Cup with a foreign coach. that myth right there. And I want to quickly debunk that because that's one thing. Because we want to talk about concerns, and people are going to say, "Oh, we have a foreign coach; it's not going to work out." No team has won a World Cup with foreign coaches because the best teams in the world usually have good enough coaches domestically to lead them to glory. But if you look at the best dark horses in history, they did have foreign coaches.
Yeah.
Greece, when they won the Euros, had a foreign coach. South Korea had Gus Hiddink in 2002. When they Portugal, when they made it to the semifinals in '06, they had a Brazilian coach actually, Scolari or Filipão. So let's just debunk that myth. You can
The
be
only
successful with
exception
foreign
to
coaches.
that is Morocco in this last World Cup. They had a Moroccan coach.
Yeah. Well, I'm not
That's
saying that you can't do well with a domestic coach. I'm just saying that whether he's foreign or domestic, it doesn't matter too much in the sense of like doing a good job. Now, I prefer if we had a great American coach, I would prefer that, but we don't. So, um, hopefully Pochettino gets that done. So, I'll let you start with that. I don't know if you have one or two or three, but give me one big concern you have in terms of us making it to the quarterfinals, which is ultimately the goal.
I think for the group stage, the um, the myth of it being an easy group, combined with the weight of expectation, is a concern of mine. Now, it's in some ways easier to play a team like England or Spain or Argentina in the group stage because nobody expects you to win, right? No one's going like the US has to win this game. When we drew against England in the last World Cup, there was a sense of like, good job, we managed to draw against England. And that's in some ways mentally easier to cope with because, look, there's no pressure on you, the pressure's on the opponent. But in every single one of these games, because we're at home and because some people may not agree, but in my opinion, this is the best roster we will ever bring to a World Cup. Because of that, the weight of expectation and combined with playing Paraguay, Australia, and potentially Turkey, you go, oh, we should beat them. In some ways, that's true, but it's harder almost to beat a team that's very near to you that you're supposed to kind of be able to beat more easily than it is to like pull an upset, right? That is my first concern. How will the US, playing at home with the best roster we've ever had, with the most high profile coach we've ever had, in a group, maybe the easiest quote unquote group that we've had
No, it is the
since,
easiest. On paper, it
yeah,
is 100%.
on paper, it is the easiest group we've had in a long time. So now we have pressure. You have to win those games. You have to beat Paraguay in that first game. You better beat Australia and Turkey. Come on, we should beat Turkey. They haven't been to a World Cup since 2002. That completely ignores that Turkey has some very, very, very good players, right? And the only reason they're not in the World Cup already is because they were in Spain's qualifying group. But we have this weird weight of expectation, and how our players will handle that is going to be very interesting to me. It's really that to me. It's like, how do we handle you got to win these games?
It's funny. It's the first time in our lifetimes, and even someone that's older that maybe watched the US in the 90s too. I mean, I was a baby, so I couldn't really watch the 98 World Cup. I'm sure I probably sat down with my dad and watched it, but I can't remember it. 2002 is the first one that I have memory of. But it's the first time in our lifetime that the US comes into a World Cup expected to top their group. This has never happened. Look at
No.
every World Cup. It's never happened. On the contrary, we've come into World Cups expected to not go through our group. Like
Yeah.
2014 was one. Like when the groups were out, I remember many people, I think even including myself, honestly, they're like, okay, we're screwed. We're
Yeah.
probably not getting out.
Ghana, Germany, Portugal. It
With
was
with
over.
prime Ronaldo, it's just like it's a good African nation and two title contenders. We're done. We're done.
Yeah.
And we got through, right? Um, 2010, tough group two, made it through. 2006 tough group we didn't make it through, but it's just this is the first time that the US is expected, or maybe not expected, but the pressure is, guys, you got to pull the results here. You got to beat those
Yeah.
two teams. In Turkey, at worst, you got to draw with them. And if you tie with them, you probably top the group. So the US is
Yeah.
expected to top the group. How do these players handle that? It almost feels like if we can do that, pulling the underdog story in the knockouts might be even a little bit easier. Like
Yeah.
Belgium, being an
Yeah.
underdog against Belgium. So that is definitely a concern of how Pochettino prepares this team mentally for that, right? The sense of belief. My concern, my biggest one is the defense of them all. Because I have never seen Pete in my lifetime. I'm not that old. I'm also not that young. I've seen a lot of Euros. I've seen a lot of Copa Americas. I've seen a lot of World Cups. I've seen a lot of Champions League, Libertadores, these big tournaments. And I've never seen a team that is an underdog make a deep run with a garbage defense. I've
Yeah.
never seen it. That's the foundation of an underdog. They're tough
Yeah.
to break down. And then
Yeah.
up top, they get the job done. Morocco was a great example of that in the last World Cup. Try to score a goal on them. They couldn't. And then in one moment, they will kill you. But they
Yeah.
defended well.
Yeah.
Now, that is my concern because we're still going to go with Tim Ream starting. And if the whole team is cohesive and we understand our weaknesses, you can make up for a lack of speed or ability of a player if the team is well set up. But there is concerns there because also Pochettino has started Miles Robinson a few times. Alex Freeman looks very promising, but we don't know how he'll behave in a World Cup. He's only played in
Yeah.
MLS, only in MLS, and then you throw a 21-year-old Alex Freeman just like perform. You never know. Maybe the mindset is there, and the guy even shines even high, like he does even better. That can happen,
Yeah.
but we don't know. Chris Richards is our best center back. He's a very good center back, but if you look at other underdogs, he would have been the worst center back they had. If you look, Noah Kai Banks, very talented, but also very young. So even if Pochettino has the balls to play him, are we sure that he can hold his own? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we had a good defense, I'll tell you what, we probably wouldn't even be talking about Noah Kai Banks right now. We'd say, hey, he's for 2030. We have that
Yeah.
set, but we
Yeah.
don't. And that's my big concern. So that the midfield will have to overcompensate and do a great job protecting the back line. Matt Freese will have to be in the best form of his life. That's another goalkeeper that he's looked fine, but he's no Tim Howard, right? So
And fine might be generous. He's had mistakes too, both in the Gold Cup and in some of these recent friendlies, right? That goal that Ecuador scored, you could make an argument he was very poorly positioned there, for
so
example.
those are my big concerns. It's like I don't know what to think because I don't know how you fix that on time for the World Cup. The players are who they are. There's no random center back dual national that we're recruiting that's going to fix that defense. And now, also for the matter, at the time of this recording, hopefully he's okay. By the time people are watching this, we'll know Tyler Adams had a knee injury, and we don't know what it is yet. By the time this video is out, everyone will know. Hopefully, it's something that's like, oh, he's back in February, so we're fine. But he's our best like defensive midfielder. So I don't know how to fix this. It's going to have to be a team effort, not an individual based effort, because we don't have the individuals to just simply carry that back line.
Yeah.
That is a big concern of mine.
That kind of ties in with my next concern. And I'm going to call this style of play. For most of its history as a country, when it goes to a World Cup, the US played the same way. Defensive bunker, right? That's what we were. That's how we got out of the group of death in 2014. That's how we managed against Mexico in 2002 and even in the group stage. We were defensively very solid. We didn't always have the greatest defenders in the world, but the whole team was a defensive unit, and we had denied you time and space. We made your life very difficult. We would just foul, kick the ball away, very frustrating to play against, and we would score goals in transition and set pieces. That's what the US has been for many, many years. Now the US has what I would call that mid-tier team curse, where you start to have some quality players, some Fuller and Balogun, some Christian Pulisic, some Weston McKennies, right? Some Gio Reynas, some Malik Tillmans. And so you want to start to play with the ball, right? You want to start to be an attacking team because now you have the players where you can actually hold the ball and you can actually keep possession and try to attack and break teams down. But that is much, much harder to do. And so I think that's what we're going to be this especially in the group stage. We're going to have the ball, we're going to try to attack, we're going to try to break teams down. The problem is that leaves you very vulnerable in transition. And so as much as I'm excited that the team's going to try to play more attractive soccer, I have this concern that if with the defense that we have right now, I would argue we still best suit a bunkering team. Like if I was the coach and they would said, Pete, you have to go as far as you can in this tournament, I would be like, that's it. We're a bunkering team now. And I would use the pace of Balogun and Pulisic and either Reina or Tillman. Reina not so much for his pace, but for his ability to pick a through ball in transition and then set pieces. That's how I would play this team because I think it covers for your weak defense and you actually have players in transitions that could be very good. I think if the US committed to becoming a bunkering team, I think you could actually go quite far.
Well, I think that that was one of Berhalter's biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
He had plenty, right? He had plenty, but the biggest one was the fact that he died on this hill that we have to play progressive soccer, build out of the back, and play a high line. He never figured that, hey, we can play CONCACAF teams like this, but when we
Yeah.
play a better team to pull an upset like the Netherlands, for example, let's adapt. Let's be the
Yeah.
underdog here. Let's embrace that role. Let's make life hell for them instead of trying
Yeah.
to be them. We're not there yet. We're getting there. We're trying to get there. And I mean, that is a big concern. What will Pochettino do? Is he going to bring back that American mindset, which it's win by all means necessary, right?
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. Defend if you have to, play, become brawlers, whatever you have to do. And also the other thing is the players you mentioned, do they have that personality in them? That's the
Yeah.
other thing,
That is the
right? Because
question.
Christian Pulisic's not Dempsey mentally. It's not the same
No,
player.
no. He's a better player than Dempsey was, but mentally, Dempsey's a tougher guy. I will say there's a middle ground here. The middle ground, and it seems to be what Pochettino is trying to do, is defend with from the front, where it become a pressing team, right? You see this in the last 5 friendlies. A lot of the goals that we scored, a lot of the chances that we created came from turnovers, from pressing, and that's can work. The problem with pressing, and especially when you're playing teams better than you, is they can play around your press. And if it happens one time and everybody's up there pressing and they manage to play around we even saw this a little bit against Ecuador. I'm
They
sorry,
scored a
against
goal.
Paraguay.
No,
Paraguay.
Ecuador scored that goal. Was it a giveaway? The Ener Valencia one. We were playing a high line and we got exposed.
Yeah, it was a high line, but even against Paraguay, they didn't even play around our press. They just went ball over the top and then across, and Miles Robinson is not marking his man. So boom, goal. So you can be a pressing team. The problem with being a pressing team is if they get around you, you're cooked, right? And to be fair, we haven't seen Anthony Robinson for a long time. He's finally back. It's amazing to me that he comes back playing for Fulham and looks just as good after this long injury. Like, I don't know if you saw him the other day
Got an assist
against
and everything yesterday.
everything. I got an assist, look very good up and down, speed is there. All of the traits we associate with Anthony Robinson are still there. So maybe that helps. But that back three is still a big concern. The goalkeeper is still a big concern. So you can be a pressing team, but if you do get exposed, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's gonna look bad. So I guess that is my concern. Style of play is what I call it.
My last concern, and this one, there's not much Pochettino can do about, or even the players. This one is more related to luck, um, depth. That's the issue. If we have everyone healthy or most players healthy, it's not an issue, right? We'll be fine. But for example, Anthony Robinson, if he goes down, I'm not comfortable going to the World Cup with Max Arston as the number one option as the left back.
Well, it would have
And
to be way up.
it would have to be Weah. So again, depth is an issue. And then I'll give you the biggest problem of them all. If Christian Pulisic goes down for some reason, we're gonna struggle to get goals. Like this guy is mainly the goal and assist guy. Sure, maybe Gio and Balogun can do, but the thing is, Gio and Balogun almost need Christian Pulisic there, even if Pulisic's having a garbage game. They need him because he will be the focal point of the opponent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christian, it's what people are even talking about Neymar in Brazil. They're saying even if Neymar is not 100%, if you put him to come off the bench late in the game, he'll be the focal point. And
Yeah.
that'll free up Vini and other guys because everyone's like, don't give Neymar time and space. One
Yeah.
moment. So if for the US, Christian Pulisic's that guy that anytime we play some team, they're like, okay, the main guy we have to stop is Pulisic. There's other guys that can cause trouble: Gio Reyna, Tillman, Balogun, Weah, occasionally Weston. Okay, but they're
Yes.
going to focus on getting Pulisic out of the game. Now,
Yeah.
if you don't have Pulisic, they're going to target Balogun and Gio. And honestly, I don't think those guys have it in them to do it when they're the target.
Yeah.
Maybe occasionally, but not consistently, right? So if Pulisic goes down, there's absolutely no replacement.
No.
Um, and defensively will be about the same, in my opinion. But in terms of offense, we're going to struggle a lot to score against Paraguay, Australia,
Yeah.
whoever we
Well,
face.
it would have to be Gio and Tillman as the attacking mids behind
But they
Balogun.
don't
We've
defend
never
too.
seen that.
That's the other problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't be a
Um,
pressing team with Gio, Tillman, and Balogun.
no. So like the depth is a big issue. And I'll even add that, like Pulisic being healthy, but let's say Tillman or Gio get injured, right? All
Yeah.
of a sudden, you don't really have any guy on the bench that can be a difference maker because if you start Pulisic and Gio or Pulisic and Tillman, you have Tillman or Gio coming off the bench. So you have that option.
Yeah.
Now, if one of those goes down, oh God, you have what? Diego Luna, Aronson? How are you going to change a game with those guys, right?
No. Well, then it would
Um,
have to probably be Ricardo Pepi, and you turn it into a 1-2. So let's say you're playing, let's say Gio's injured, because that's most likely scenario. And you have Tillman and
Unfortunately.
Pulisic playing behind Balogun. And Tillman just looks off his game. He's not playing well. Who are you going to replace him? Like you said, Lunas and Bejas and Aronson. Those are your options.
Mhm.
Or you could pull Tillman and almost play Balogun as a second forward with Pepe up top. And it sort of becomes a 1-2. Or you have Balogun play as that sort of attacking midfield winger. To be honest, Balogun can kind of play that role. He often has played in wide areas, or at least not fully wide areas, but if you watch him attack, he often attacks the half spaces. He doesn't always stay very central. So that's probably what I would do. I think depth is a problem. I think still we have more depth than we have ever had at a World Cup, right? Because
Mhm.
if you look, imagine everyone's healthy, and we know not everyone's going to be healthy. So a lot depends on who gets injured. Imagine everyone's healthy. Let's say you start Gio, Pulisic, Balogun, Dest, Arob, McKennie, and Adams as your attackers, and you need a goal. You still have guys can come off the bench. You have Malik Tillman, you have Ricardo Pepi, you have Tim Weah. Those are three guys that can be quote unquote difference makers, or you feel confident maybe they could make something happen. That's still better than we've ever had. In the Tim Weah didn't come off the bench in the last World Cup. He was a starter, right? We had Jordan Morris and Kellen Acosta coming off the bench. You know what I mean? So I'd
A
say
little bit
our
because
depth is
of Verhoeven's
better.
selections, right? A little bit,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Our depth is better than it's ever been for sure, but it's still not at a level where you're comfortable.
yeah, I guess the main issue here is like you talked about the teams in the past. They didn't really rely on one player to individually win the game for the US, even though, of
Yeah.
course, Dempsey and Landon would be the standouts mostly.
Yeah.
Um, but when you are a bunkering team in transition, when you lose like a star player or something, it doesn't affect you as much, right?
Yeah.
Because you're still going to defend for your lives and try to kill in transition. But when you rely on a team like you talked about, that sometimes you try to make things happen on the ball, you need that difference maker. And unfortunately, the only consistent, legitimate difference maker we have is Pulisic. I know Gio
Yeah.
can, I know Tillman can, I know Balogun can, but the only one that we see week in, week out in a top five league do it for this club and is in a different level is Christian Pulisic. So it does play a big role, unless Pochettino just go falls on terrorist bunker ball, and then it doesn't matter too much who you lose because you're just going to counterattack. It doesn't matter.
He's
Um,
not going to. I mean,
yeah, that's the
nothing
problem.
about Pochettino suggests he's going to do that. He plays his way. We're going to be a pressing, attacking team at the World Cup. Can you make a few adjustments, for example? Like, if you have A-Rob and Dest on the field, you're not getting one of them to stay home. To be honest, I would probably have A-Rob stay home a little bit more, just to help defend, especially if you're starting Tim Ream. Because I know A-Rob is a big plus in the attack, too. But I need defensive help for Tim Ream if I'm the coach.
And I think overall those are the main concerns too. And there's obviously a big sense of optimism that we talked about throughout the video. This is not meant to be a negative video.
No,
We are still
no.
very optimistic about it. We just wanted to show the importance of topping the group, which I think we will. I think we
Yeah.
will top the group, and concerns that we have because it's not really all sunshine and rainbows right now with this team. It's gotten a lot better, but these concerns hopefully are adjusted. And the depth part, it's more about luck. If the players are healthy, we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah.
But you never know. Pete, anything else you want to share before we go?
No, that's it. I mean, just to add a quick positive, Pochettino does have this team believing. And it was starting to remind me of the US teams of old, where they, went out there and like, we're going to give you hell for 90 minutes, whatever the result. We didn't see that for a long time under Pochettino. And the culture in this team was terrible when he took over. It was awful, awful, awful. And it's taken him a long time to turn this ship around. We're starting to see signs of life. Which, by the way, when people talk about the Berhalter culture and how wonderful the culture was, no, it was shit. And this team's entire culture was created by Greg Berhalter, right? For 6 years. All of these guys came into the national team under him. So that culture was bad. He has turned it around, and we're starting to see a team, albeit in friendlies and it's limited data points, but we're starting to see a team that really does, whoever's on the field, they really believe, and they really are ready to fight and work hard. That is, I think, going to be a game changer for us, despite our concerns.
Yeah, we were told by a U.S. soccer employee, actually, in a very almost like nasty way, I would say, of how
Yeah.
we didn't understand Berhalter's culture and how we weren't there to see it and all that. It's like, yeah, we can see it from the outside. And well, now we have all the evidence we needed because Pochettino talks about that every other month. He mentions that.
Every
He made a
month.
whole like
Exactly.
story on Instagram about culture. It's like
Yeah.
the dude
Yeah.
is
And
like,
he told, who was it? The Andres Cantor. He told him in an interview that I inherited a team with really bad culture. Really bad. And we could see that in Copa America,
who's
right?
on that? Whose fault?
Yeah. It's the previous coach.
Because the players are the same.
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go, and happy New Year's because this episode will be out a couple days before New Year's. So enjoy. We made it to 2026, and that's all. Bye bye.